Welcome to Dark Dreams.
The moon is full and it is dripping with blood.
Now comes Blood Moon Rising magazine.
Original fiction,
Creature features,
nightmarish artwork.
interviews, and other original horror.
Visit bloodmoonrisingmagazine.com and join our Rising Legion.
Horrified Press. horrifiedpress.wordpress.com.
Made in China by Vela Damon. The man who stepped into the elevator was exactly the sort of man you hope won't step into the elevator. At least, if you're a woman. Even with John standing right beside her, Lou still felt that little rush of panic, that small terror you always attempt to deny. Jasper, the man's name tag read. Lou didn't have a name tag, but Jasper stared at her chest all the same. "So how is the food here? I'm starving," Lou said, hoping to distract him. "Pretty good. We're too far out to get much fresh meat, though," Jasper replied without looking up. "Huh, that is too bad," John said. "I was looking forward to a big juicy steak." Jasper managed to tear his eyes away from Lou's chest to smile at John. "I'm sure Chef can still come up with something tasty." Lou didn't care for his emphasis on tasty, how his eyes roved back to her chest as he said it. The elevator slid to a stop. Jasper stepped out. "Enjoy your supper. Wouldn't want you all to waste away and lose that healthy glow." "We have to get out of here," Lou said as soon as the door slid closed. "Why? Just because Jasper was a little strange? Did you not see the way he looked at us? So you have dreamed of coming to America all of your life. You're finally here, and you will let some weirdo scare you off? Americans are supposed to be colorful characters, Lou. People like this are what we hoped to see." "Then I believe I have seen enough already. What if he is out there when the door opens?" John rolled his eyes. "Come on, you can't be serious." "I have had a bad feeling ever since we arrived. Have you not felt it too?" "It is only travel jitters. You need to relax. Have some drinks with dinner." "We can have plenty of drinks with dinner at home. This is not our reason for coming here." "Are we not supposed to celebrate our true reason for coming? Our true reason is to perform our duty, which we are doing by attending this stupid dinner in the first place." John frowned. "So we should pretend that it is not our anniversary tomorrow? You know, it was only coincidence that allowed us to take this trip now. If their communication systems were operational, we would not have been sent at all." Lou trailed off, looking around the elevator. "Why is this taking so long? It should not take so long to travel only 3 floors. John shrugged. "This is an old machine." "It is an old metal box raised and lowered with rubber bands. How can they feel safe in such a thing?" "You say rubber bands, as if they are the same kind you keep in your desk drawer. They're cables, Lou. Very strong ones capable of holding thousands of kilos." "I understand that, but what if we become trapped in here? We seem to have stopped. Why do the doors not open?" "Maybe they need a moment." "They seemed to work normally before." Lou looked up at the service hatch. "Do you think that is the emergency exit?" "Becoming stuck for a few seconds does not constitute an emergency. I know that small spaces bother you, but—" Lou glanced at her data unit. "I believe it has been more than 5 minutes." "I doubt that. We are simply not accustomed to these. I'm sure this is normal." Lou fell silent, paced the limited floor space as the minutes drug on, looked up at the service hatch again. Do you think you could lift me up there? And then what? You would climb the cables like Spider-Man? He would not need to climb. He has web. We might be able to reach the floor above us. You could try pressing the call button before flying into a panic. I thought you were sure this was normal. It does seem to be taking a while. Lou stepped over and pressed the red button. No alarm sounded. What should we do? Lou glanced at her data unit once more. Simply sit here all night? We have no idea what has happened. Perhaps there has been a power outage. Then why are the lights still working? They could be on some sort of emergency backup, which would mean this is an emergency. John sighed. I thought you wanted to come on this trip. I wanted to see America, but you are the one who believes we were sent here as a reward. We were sent here to spy on them, and you would realize this if you were not so desperate for accolades. Why would we need to spy on them? If there had been any issues with the manipulation, we would have received reports somehow, from our scouts, if not through the usual channels. Not necessarily. Many of the scouts have gone off-grid. Many, but not all. And why would they be so welcoming to us if we were responsible for harming them further? Everyone we have encountered has been nothing but pleasant. The check-in clerk, the bellboy, and Jasper can hardly qualify as an everyone. And Jasper was not simply colorful. He reminded me of those stories Kai was always telling. Those are only old wives' tales. Since when do you believe such nonsense, particularly coming from Kai? It is no more than sour grapes, because he could not come. Can you lift me up there or not? Lou inclined her head toward the service hatch. John sighed again and laced his fingers together to make a step. I still think you are being ridiculous. Lou didn't answer, too busy pushing on the hatch panel. Maybe Jasper simply thought you were cute, John said, shrugging. Be still! His behavior is hardly the only problem, and if you think I am being ridiculous, good for you. You can stay trapped in this precarious metal box, while I find a way out of here. Lou groaned in relief as the panel finally let go, looked down at John, put a finger to her lips. Her head smacked into a solid surface as he hoisted her up. She bit her tongue to keep from cursing. So much for a stealthy escape. And what is wrong with this picture? Instead of a cable support or some other sort of mechanical guts, her head had struck a ceiling, a perfectly normal ceiling, except that it stretched out over one of the hotel's corridors, instead of the top of the elevator shaft. Hurry up! I cannot hold you much longer, John hissed. Lou ignored him. The knock on the head has affected my brain. This cannot be real. Elevators do not pass through corridors. But there it was. The blue carpet with its pattern of wavy vines and flowers, stretching to the end of the hallway. Room doors spaced at intervals all the way down the line. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath, opened her eyes to find a woman smiling up at her. Lou shrieked and almost tumbled down, eliciting a curse from John as he stumbled under her shifting weight. Did Jasper give you a fright? That boy, he's just impossible. Lou opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Arletta, Guest Relations Director, the woman's name tag read. Unlike Jasper, she was hardly menacing, unless you were terrified of kindly grandmothers who'd be more likely to knit you an ugly sweater than kill you. It's okay, Arletta said, offering a hand to assist Lou in making her exit. Come on down from there. Everyone's waiting in the banquet room. Don't want the food to get cold. Chef's been working on it all day. Even had some special Angus prime shipped in for the occasion. Go, Lou, John said. I cannot hold you any longer. Lou pulled her lower half out of the elevator and let Arletta help her down to the floor. John hoisted himself out and hopped down to join them. Lou stared at him, then at the elevator sticking up through the middle of the hallway. John shrugged, but offered no comment. I'm sorry about Jasper, Arletta said. We try with that boy, but... Lou kept staring at the elevator, finding no damage to the flooring, the carpet, no indication that anything was amiss, other than the elevator itself, sitting there. How and why, with the normal elevator doors only a few paces away? Lou's legs woozed. She placed a hand on John to steady herself. "Oh, I guess that crazy contraption gave you a scare," Arletta said. "It's kinda neat, though, huh? Must be fascinating for scientific types like yourselves." "Are you familiar with our work?" John asked. Arletta laughed, patted John on the shoulder. "Familiar with it? Why, aren't you just the modest one? You're nigh on famous in these parts. I guess you wouldn't know that, though, being your first visit here and all. Now come on, you can't miss out on your own shindig." John moved to follow. Lou grabbed his arm. "Are you insane? Did you take no notice of what just happened? We need to leave." Arletta waited a discreet distance away, absently tapping her foot. "Leave without getting to the bottom of this? Are you insane? The only thing we will get to the bottom of is a 6-foot hole. No one puts people on the ground anymore, not even way out here." Lou attempted to rub away her headache, only succeeded in leaving red marks on her temples. "Oh, well then, now I am looking forward to being slaughtered, because where they would put me afterward was certainly my biggest concern." "You know what I mean, Lou." "No, I do not know what you mean, or why we are not getting the heck out of here. Jasper is probably sharpening his saw chain right now." "Saw chain? I believe you mean chainsaw." "Does it matter? Sorry if I am not so familiar with antique slaughtering tools. Lesson learned. Can we go now?" "We have just experienced something that should be impossible, and you still worry about some old wives' tale? Think, Lou. If the oddity with the elevator is only neat to these people, where do you think all the crazy stories came from? If we could figure out how it works. Think of what it could mean. Besides, they are throwing us a party. We cannot just leave. Have you not stopped to consider why they would throw us a party? Were you not listening? We are famous here. I was too busy wondering what we have gotten ourselves into. Then there is the fact that I could not care less about being famous. I agreed to attend a dinner with the overseer of this colony, not some sort of party." "So you are saying that you would not like a little recognition? Some appreciation for all of our hard work? We will never get that back home, so I say we should enjoy it while we can." Lou couldn't have cared less about appreciation either, but since she also couldn't leave without John, she let the subject drop and followed Arletta through the hotel's palatial lobby into a cavernous banquet room, where everyone rose to their feet, applauding, whistling, cheering. "Is this a nightmare?" Lou thought. "Yes. I fell asleep by the pool simulation. Or perhaps it was too much stress. I have finally cracked, and this business holiday is actually a trip to the rehabilitation center." Arletta led them to the front of the room and seated them at the head table, facing the crowd. A man dressed in flowing white silks took the stage, his eyes such a dazzling shade of green that they stood out from across the room. He smiled at Lou and John as he settled behind the dais. "Welcome, Mr. and Mrs. Wen. It is such an honor to have you with us. We apologize for springing this little banquet on you, but thought you wouldn't accept our invitation otherwise. Such humble geniuses, ladies and gentlemen." The crowd burst into rowdy applause once more. Lou wanted to hide under the table. John basked in the glow of their admiration. "John, please!" "Is this not what we have waited for?" "Only in it for the science," he said. Lou turned away, finding nowhere to look without encountering a pair of hungry eyes. Their eyes? And what in the world are... "I know we're all eager to get to the fine meal Chef has prepared for us," the green-eyed speaker said. "But occasions such as this demand a speech, so please bear with me. Of course, everyone in this room knows at least some of the history that precipitated tonight's event, but it never hurts to remember where you've been in order to see how far you've come." He paused, making eye contact with various individuals, waiting for the room to settle. "Journey with me back to the year 2037. Millions had perished in war. Disease and toxic exposure claimed millions more. Then the famines came, making war and disease look friendly. Despite all the loss of life, there were still too many of us and just not enough food. Our earth had given and given, and there was just no more to give. The oceans picked clean, the soil leached of nutrients necessary for agriculture." He gazed at the guests of honor. "But then the brilliant couple seated before us changed everything." The crowd cheered. John grinned like a jack-o'-lantern. Lou's face burned hotter than the candle she imagined sticking in his head. Green Eyes allowed the applause to run its course, smiled bigger. Our guests may not look like the superheroes of old, but they literally saved the world in true superhero fashion by doing the seemingly impossible, altering our very cells to be able to withstand toxins, resist disease, and survive on what food sources remained. Tonight we're here to honor these humble heroes who made it all possible and in the process brought their own country back from ruin. China thrives again, and some days so will we. He turned to John and Lou. Jonathan and Luann Wen, of course you deserve much more than a simple banquet, but since we cannot give you the world as you've given it to us, on behalf of everyone out here in the wilds of America, we hope you'll accept this small token of our undying gratitude. A feast in your honor, symbolic of the feast you have given us all. The crowd went wild. John rose to his feet, pulling Lou with him, directing her to take a bow. His was smooth and graceful. Hers was awkward and forced. "Would you like to come up and say a few words?" Green Eyes asked. John leapt for the stage, attempting to drag Lou behind him. She stood her ground, shaking her head. Before relinquishing the dais, the speaker clasped John's hand, then thought better of it, and drew him into an embrace. When he pulled away, his magnificent eyes shone with tears. "Please excuse my wife," John began, gazing at Lou with a nauseating look of affection. Why must the spotlight turn everyone into a lunatic? Why does he not see? Lou can be a bit shy, but believe me when I say that she deserves to be up here every bit as much as I. We've always done our best work as a team, picking up where the other leaves off. I'm a very lucky man to have found a woman so well suited for me, both in everyday life and in the laboratory. John paused for applause and received plenty. Lou understood that this was her cue to gaze at him adoringly, to smile and nod at the crowd. She worked up a fake smile, a curt nod. "As to why we are here," John said, turning back to the crowd, "even now it still feels like a dream. The idea that launched our project was simple, really. To leave off seeking methods to return our world back to the way it had been. We believed that we had to learn to adapt to the present, to survive and even thrive so that our bodies would be capable of performing the work necessary in order to restore what normalcy we could. The research took many, many years. Too many for millions of people. Countless times the project was nearly abandoned. In fact, when the breakthrough finally came, we were due to lose our funding within days. It was nothing short of miraculous to find victory within sight of certain defeat. But my greatest personal moment came later, during my first visit to the manipulation facility. I felt so proud. Not so much in myself, but my country. So proud and hopeful that our work would prove to be a vital step in regaining the world's trust. And, of course, I also hoped like heck that the process would work outside of the parameters of our testing. The crowd laughed. John's big, stupid smile grew even bigger and stupider. Lou hoped his face would crack. "At home it was easy to see the results," he went on, "and we have received reports of similar occurrences across the globe, but honestly until tonight this was merely an abstract concept. Seeing you all and putting faces to the concept both humbles me greatly and fills me with pride. Thank you so much for allowing us, this moment. It means more to us than you will ever know, to receive such validation. Now, on with the feast." He delivered the final line like a Mongol warrior, sans sword to stab into the dais with a flourish. Lou had never disliked him more. The crowd gave him a standing ovation. John remained on stage, grinning like an idiot, until the crowd retook their seats. Green Eyes followed him back to the table, introduced himself as the overseer of the colony. He might have given his actual name, but Lou was too busy studying his face, his hands. An army of hotel staff flooded the room, pushing carts laden with silver-lidded plates. Lou felt the weight of every eye as she reached for hers. Lifting the lid, she let out a sigh of relief. There was no crazy contraption. Her husband hadn't just made a complete fool of himself. Their dining companions were perfectly normal. All a nightmare, just like she'd thought. John kicked her under the table. Ouch! Not a dream. So now what? Lou sat frozen with the lid in her hand, not knowing if she should slam it back down, hurl it across the room, or use it as a shield as she ran for the hills. "Lou!" John hissed. From his vantage point, the lid still concealed the contents of the plate. Lou glared at him, lifted the lid fully away, and set it on the table with a flourish. After you, dear. Finally, the idiot grin was wiped off his stupid face. His eyes grew as wide as the plate. Go on, dear. Everyone is waiting. Everyone was waiting, some not so patiently, with utensils at the ready. John reached for the lid of his own plate as if it were a coiled serpent, but hesitation did nothing to change what it held. Resting precisely in the center of the plate, a female breast, a human female breast, cooked and slightly shriveled, but unmistakable. Chef had done an excellent job with the presentation. Roasted new potatoes and glazed carrots formed a circle around the breast. A sprig of parsley sat perched alongside the nipple. Lou envisioned it on the front page of an e-zine, perhaps the padded cell Gourmand, and wondered if she'd be allowed reading materials in her own padded cell, if she were lucky enough to make it that far. Is something wrong? Green Eyes asked. Is it not cooked to your satisfaction? John stared at his plate, horrified. Mr. Accolades has fallen silent. I suppose it's up to me. Oh, no! It is lovely, is it not, dear? Lou kicked John under the table, hard. We are only a bit surprised to receive such a delicacy. Well, breast meat is rather hard to come by, Green Eyes said, especially USDA-certified Angus Prime. I understand that Chef had to trade some of his recipes to procure it, but believe me, it was a small price to pay. Lou took a bite of a carrot, forced herself to chew and swallow. It is on the same plate. You know, I have always taken an interest in American history. Such innovative minds you have. How do you procure this, originally? Is it biofarm raised? I assumed you would know all about it, Green Eyes said. It's part of your history, too. Really? Lou did her best to look intrigued rather than alarmed, to the point of screaming, or throwing up, or screaming while throwing up, if it were possible to do both at once. Yes, very much so. Were you unaware of it? It is an even rarer delicacy in China, she lied. Our government no longer regulates food production. That ended during the famines, and has yet to resume, although it is being considered. I'm curious as to how your system works. Perhaps we might end up with something similar. Lou couldn't decide whether she was appalled or impressed with herself for coming up with such bullshit on the fly. Either way, Green Eyes seemed satisfied with her response. Well, my very simplistic understanding of how the manipulation works is that it speeds up the evolutionary process so that we adapt now instead of thousands or millions of years from now. Of course, it's always been understood that we can consume flesh, but the idea had always been hugely unappealing. Even during the worst of the famines, flesh consumption was virtually unheard of. But shortly after the mass processing took place, the psychological aversion seemed to simply disappear. If that was by design, it was brilliant. If not, a nice piece of luck, as it ended up saving countless lives. Certainly there were problems at first, but with any major societal shift there are problems. Pro-flesh and anti-flesh movements sprang up. Demonstrations became violent. But when the new government came into power, all that changed. Now there are strict rules in place regarding selection, sanitation, and consumption. Flesh has to be processed in a certified facility, and is still illegal otherwise. Do you believe it to be a good system? Lou asked. Brilliant. A nice piece of luck? Yes, on the whole. We still end up with the black market, but that will always exist now that it's started. Most take the view that we're solving the overpopulation and food shortage problems at the same time. Two enormous issues in the past, both wiped out thanks to the two of you. Thanks to the two of you. Thanks to the two of you. The words would never leave her head. Lou cleared her throat, took in a deep breath, but no amount of breath would be enough to steady her against that. How fascinating. But I have a rather awkward confession to make, considering that you have gone to so much trouble. There are so few of us now. You could not possibly have anticipated, but you see, I am a vegetarian. Oh, I am terribly sorry. It never crossed my mind that you might be. I'll have Chef prepare you a meatless dish. It'll be no trouble at all. Oh, that is not necessary. There are plenty of vegetables here, and the meat does not have to go to waste. My husband would be happy to take my share. Would you not, dear? More like a deer in the headlights. Take that, Mr. Accolades. Chef will be more than happy to prepare you a suitable alternative, Green Eyes insisted. It'll just be a moment. He scurried off toward the kitchen. Lou turned to John. Are you still feeling so important now? How have we never heard of this? How, in all this time? We have heard of it. The stories. From Kai? That was supposed to be rumor and old wives' tales, just like dragons and demons and everything else he goes on about. There have been no official reports. I understand that the official channels are down, but we should have heard something more than rumor. You know how slow the news is now, and how unreliable. Rumors are all we end up with half the time, especially from America. They have hardly begun rebuilding the networks here. But this is appalling, obscene, major screenline news, and to think it's all thanks to us. Lou shook her head. We have to stop this. We have to figure out what's gone wrong and begin remanipulation. There's no funding for that. And what would this do to our economy after the recalls, the deaths? You think people have forgotten so quickly? If the manipulation process is proven faulty, no one will trust us ever again. So we're supposed to turn a blind eye? To this? Lou jerked her head toward the plates. Why not? They seem happy with it. This is only one place, John. The manipulations took place worldwide. He shook his head, as if that made everything fall in line. It can't be happening everywhere. This has to be an isolated incident. Isolated to the whole colony? The whole of America? Surely they would know if they were the only ones. And even if it is isolated, we are supposed to leave it? To allow it to keep spreading? Without bothering to attempt containment? There's no way I'm going back and reporting this. You know very well what would happen. We would be discredited and banned from further research, possibly even executed. You would allow this to continue? Merely to save yourself? It is hardly only myself involved. It is our entire country. You know how it felt to see our label on all the syringes. It redeemed us. And who does it hurt? If this is what they want, who does it hurt? Who does it hurt? The person that these breasts belong to, for one, and we made them want this. It is not as if this is some normal side effect. John shrugged. They all seem perfectly healthy. Do they? Perhaps you should leave off being blinded by the spotlight and take a closer look around. At a table to their right, a woman's lavish updo revealed pointed ears, bristling with quills. Her male companion raised a wine-glass with manicured talons. To their left, a man smiled at them, revealing a vicious set of fangs. Crossing the floor, a preteen girl with a slit cut into the back of her party dress to accommodate a reptilian tail. At least half the people in the room had visible abnormalities. Lou shuddered to think of what might be covered by their clothing. Before, John had been too caught up in the accolades to notice, just as Lou said. He blanched, leaned in close to her ear. They are becoming animals. This cannot be from the manipulation. We took every precaution in isolating the traits, and ran every test dozens of times. There was not a single abnormality, not one. I know that, John. I was there. But Green Eyes said that the process is what gave them the appetite. Something could have happened during shipping. We are still not certain of the shelf life. We did not conduct any tests on Americans in America. They received the worst of the biochem assaults. What if the process was affected by the toxins here? Toxins could be to blame for all of this. Toxin exposure results in sickness and typical sorts of deformities, not this, and you know it. We did this, John. We failed to identify all the potentials, regardless of what the tests concluded. Think of how much further this will go in 10 years, 20, once everyone who has undergone the process begins to bear children. Think of how far it might have gone already. It may already be happening all over the globe. Lou rested her head on her hand. We have not saved the world. We've doomed it. Even worse than the famines and disease. People were starving and sick, but they were still people. Lou waited for a response. When none came, she forced herself up from the chair. I feel faint. I need to get some air. You're leaving? Shut up, Lou hissed, retaking her seat. You believe they will just let us walk out? I did not fool them that well. And you did not fool them at all. If they figure out that this is not happening in the rest of the world yet, they will know exactly what it means for them. Quarantine. And if we cannot fix it, extermination. The Global Council will view this as an infectious disease and... Goodbye, America. It's not as if they're doing anything to hide it. The Council has to have learned of it already. The Council hardly cares about some backwoods wasteland, but they will. Once the travel bans are lifted and people with fangs and claws begin to show up at transport stations, we have to start work on this now. Once they begin traveling, we cannot contain it from spreading or from the Council. John looked around the room for a moment. Lou, you're missing something. Oh, I'm probably missing plenty, but not to worry. I'm sure my genius husband has all the answers. Stop. Please stop. I'm not saying you're wrong. It is only that there is a good chance it is already out of our hands. No, we can fix this. And keep it quiet. There is no need to report anything yet. We only need to get moving. John sighed. You're not seeing my point, Lou. Look at the reception we have received. These people love us. Would they feel this way if they saw themselves as monsters? What if they do not want to change back? No, that cannot be. If this is allowed to continue unchecked forever. Lou rose, shaking her head. Just wait a few minutes. Then say that you need to come check on me. That all the excitement has gotten to me. I will get the pod. As she made her exit, admiring faces gazed on from every table. A little girl with webbed fingers and gills on the sides of her neck. A woman with feline whiskers jutting from her cheeks. A teenage boy who'd shaved his head, obviously proud of a budding pair of horns. And so many pairs of brilliantly colored eyes, like green eyes, but in every shade of the rainbow. Animal eyes. The door seemed miles away and took eternities to reach. After escaping into the hallway, Lou wanted to lie down on the plush carpet and die. Every single image burned into her brain, every abnormality, every dinner plate, which she'd tried even harder to avoid noticing. Feet, hands, hearts, brains, tongues, unidentifiable slabs. Appetizer bowls of ears, noses, lips, complete with cocktail sauce for dipping. Cocktail sauce! In the lobby, she spied a hollow book resting on a coffee table. Gifts of the Serum. A compilation of metamorphosis stories. Wings sprouting, talons growing, fangs descending. And there was more. The serum was a gift that kept on giving. ESP, telekinesis, superhuman strength, speed, agility, even the ability to turn a normal elevator into a crazy contraption. Listed as the work of a disgruntled employee with abilities to distort matter. Last but not least, a chapter on acquiring the taste for flesh, complete with a picture captioned, "The First Barbecue," depicting rows of human bodies being roasted on spits. In the background, lines of people stood holding their plates, licking their lips. What have we done? And what are they capable of doing to us? Lou tucked the book under her arm and raced to her room, taking the stairs. Inside, she grabbed her purse, stuffed the book in the outer pocket, choked down a scream as she exited, and ran headlong into Jasper. His smile was fangless, but it didn't need them to be disturbing, so leering, so hungry. "You're missing the party," he said, looking around as if to make certain they were alone. "All the excitement is a bit much. I came up for my nicotine tubes." Lou patted her purse. "You don't like being the center of attention?" Pretty girl like you ought to be used to it. Lou shrugged, disguising a shudder. Why are you not at the party? Just making my rounds, he said, still looking up and down the hall. I'm in charge of security. So you'll have to miss it? That's too bad. I'll be able to pop in and out. Ugh. Well, I'm sure I will see you there. Lou turned for the stairwell, forced herself not to look back, imagining him right on her heels, smelling her fear, gathering himself to pounce. Inside the stairwell, she ducked behind the door, waiting to see if Jasper would follow. After a long moment of quiet, she sprinted down the stairs. Outside, she gulped the crisp night air, tasted bile when she registered the scent of roasting flesh. She made a show of activating a tube, tried and failed to control her trembling hands, forced herself to walk at a casual pace to the rental pod, got in and activated the audio program, playing up the guise of just needing a break. Still no sign of Jasper, but with all the gifts, who knew what he might be capable of? The stealth of a cat? Invisibility? Remote viewing? Lou rested her hand on her right knee, close to the controls. Thank science, personal pods had made a comeback, or she'd be stranded in the middle of nowhere, forced to make a break for it through the mountains. Those with gifts might track her like bioengineered hounds, and Lou didn't want to think about what might lurk in the woods. Her left hand managed the tube. She sucked it like a straw as she watched the clock. 10 minutes since she'd left the banquet room. John should be on his way. The damn clock is broken. Lou looked around, still saw no sign of Jasper or anyone else. She gazed up at the stars, so brilliant, far from any city. She asked them what she had done. Of course, they didn't answer. She activated another tube, fiddled with the audio screen, adjusted the climate control, checked the pod's battery life. Fully charged. Thanks, science. At least 15 minutes had passed. John, where the heck are you? Lou wanted to exit the pod and pace, but Jasper or something else might be lurking. She pulled out the holobook, wished for death all over again as she read the stories in full, examined each ghoulish picture. But not out here. Please do not let me die out here. 5 more minutes passed. He's not coming. Bastard! Miserable, selfish bastard! She jumped out of her skin and almost sucked the tube down her throat when Jasper rapped on the pod's doorframe. So much for appearing casual. You ain't leaving your own get-together now, are you? He asked, grinning. Lou managed to work up a smile, even with her skin crawling away. No, I just need some time to regroup. Things like that make me very uncomfortable, to tell the truth. I thought I might take a drive to the scenic overlook we passed on the way here and see the view of the moon hanging over the mountains. That's a pretty spot around this time, but folks will be awful disappointed at you taking off. I just need a few minutes. It will help me feel more sociable when I return. Well, I understand you want some time alone, he said. But don't take too long here. You're the belle of the ball this evening. Jasper winked at her. So much for her skin. It jumped out the passenger window. I won't. Thanks. Jasper stepped away, turned to watch Lou go. She refused to check the rearview display to see him staring after her, fearful that it would be exactly like a horror disc she'd seen, where no matter how far or fast she drove, the monster's leering face would always be right there. Tears blurred her vision, but not enough to halt her progress. She'd do it alone, run the tests, develop the new process, oversee the manipulation. If she were killed as punishment, or as part of a cover-up, so be it. It wasn't about personal or national security, no matter what her selfish husband said. It was everything, the world, humanity, all they'd hoped to save in the first place. Lou spotted them in the darkness at the edge of the woods. Humans, naked, squatting, running on all fours, a pack of them devouring something. Further along, one lay dead in the road, struck down and left where it fell, as if it were a deer. They even think of each other as animals now. She stopped the pod, positioning it so the headlights illuminated the body. A young woman, naked like the others. Her chest. Oh, gods, her chest! Lou dug in her purse, found the sanitary container that held her contraceptive device, emptied it, approached the body, heart thudding loud enough to drown out the world as she used one of the pod's keys to scrape tissue samples into a container. The woman's abnormality was the most disturbing of all. 6 breasts lined up in 2 equal rows, just like an animal that would reproduce in litters. How many, and what sort of gifted offspring would she have produced? So many that the overpopulation crises of the past might pale in comparison. But breast meat is rather hard to come by, remember? Lou didn't want to remember, but once the thought took hold, how much would such a woman be worth? Enough to hunt, trap, breed, to replicate the mutation in other women, in all women? Feeling eyes on her, Lou shook the thoughts away, dragged the body to the side of the road, wishing she could do something more, hating to leave her that way. But there were so many pairs of eyes, dozens, hundreds, hiding there in the tree line, studying, judging, deciding. Lou thought of Jasper, staring after her in the parking lot. Suddenly the pod seemed a great distance away. Back at the hotel, her husband still sat at the table of honor. "I apologize for my wife," he told Green Eyes. "I'm afraid it was all too much for her." "Yes, I believe we might have driven her into hiding, but we cannot allow this lovely meal to go to waste." The meat was fork tender, John had discovered, and the taste, well, it wasn't what he'd expected. He smiled as he swallowed the last bite. Running his tongue over his teeth, the incisors felt just a bit sharper. Sighing, he settled back into his chair, finally getting comfortable with the ache he'd been feeling in his tailbone.